Imagine a man, alone in a frozen Himalayan cave, surviving on nothing but nettles, yet radiating a light that defies the cold. Who was Milarepa, and how did he turn hardship into miracles? If you're new to Buddhism, you might wonder, can suffering unlock profound wisdom? Join us as we unravel his captivating journey, revealing secrets that could transform your perspective. Stay tuned to discover why his story still inspires millions and how it might inspire you. Hit subscribe button and let's dive in. The cave's embrace. In the heart of a jagged Himalayan peak, where the wind howled like a chorus of restless spirits, Milarepa sat motionless in a cave so stark it seemed carved from the bones of the mountain itself. The air was thin, biting at his skin through the threadbare cloth draped over his shoulders. His only sustenance was a handful of roasted nettles, their bitter sting a faint echo of the trials he had endured to reach this solitude. Yet, within this austere refuge, something extraordinary was unfolding. A quiet alchemy of the mind and spirit, a radiance born not of comfort but of relentless dedication. You might wonder how a man, stripped of all worldly possessions, could find such fire within. Stay with me, and let's unravel the mystery of Milarepa's cave, where the ordinary crumbled and the miraculous bloomed. The cave was no sanctuary of warmth. Frost clung to its walls, and the floor was a slab of unyielding stone. Each breath Milarepa took was a negotiation with the cold, a reminder of the body's fragility. Yet, he did not curse the chill or shrink from it. Instead, he leaned into it, as if the cold were a teacher whispering lessons of endurance. His diet of nettles, meager as it was, became more than food. It was a pact with simplicity, a vow to strip away all that was unnecessary. You might feel a shiver just imagining it, the gnawing hunger, the piercing cold. But what if I told you that within this deprivation, Milarepa found a key to something vast, something that made the stars above his cave seem dim by comparison? Hold that thought, because this is where the story begins to pulse. Milarepa had not always been a man of caves and nettles. Once, he was tethered to a life of turmoil, his heart heavy with the weight of past deeds. The path that led him here was not one of ease, but of reckoning, a journey through shadows to seek a light he could not yet name. In the cave, he sat, legs crossed, eyes half closed, his breath a slow rhythm that seemed to sync with the mountain's own pulse. Meditation was not mere stillness for him. It was a forge. Each moment of focus hammered at the impurities of his mind, doubt, fear, distraction, until they began to melt away. Can you feel it? That spark of anticipation when something within you shifts, when the noise of the world fades, and you sense a deeper current? That's what Milarepa chased, and it's what keeps us here, drawn to his story. The nettles, bitter as they were, became a kind of sacrament. Each bite was a choice to reject excess, to embrace a life unadorned. You might think such austerity would dull the spirit, but for Milarepa, it was the opposite. The less he clung to, the more he uncovered. His body grew lean, his skin tinged green from the nettle's relentless diet, yet his eyes burned with a clarity that could pierce the veil of the ordinary. People who passed by the mountain, shepherds and wanderers, whispered of a man who glowed in the dark, whose presence seemed to hum with an unseen force. What was it about this cave, this man, that turned hardship into something luminous? Let's linger here a moment, because the answer is not what you expect. In the silence of the cave, Milarepa's mind became a vast landscape. Thoughts arose like clouds, some heavy with memory, others fleeting as mist. He did not fight them. Instead, he watched, letting each pass without grasping. This was his practice, to see the mind's dance and not be swept away by it. You've felt it, haven't you? That moment when you're caught in a thought, then suddenly step back, and it loses its grip. That's where Milarepa lived, in that space of freedom. His meditation was not a retreat from the world, but a diving into it, a fearless plunge into the depths of his own being. The cold, the hunger, the solitude, these were not enemies but allies, sharpening his awareness until it gleamed like a blade. Now, imagine sitting with him, the cave's walls closing in, the wind's wail a distant song. You might feel restless, tempted to flee to warmth, to comfort. But stay. There's a pull here, a quiet promise that if you endure, something will unfold. Milarepa felt it too. Days turned to weeks, weeks to months, and still he sat, his breath a steady anchor. The nettles dwindled, yet his resolve did not. Something was stirring within him, a warmth that defied the frost, a light that no cave could contain. You can almost see it, can't you? The faint glow in his eyes, the subtle shift in the air around him. This is no ordinary tale. It's a map to something you didn't know you were seeking. The first whispers of the miraculous came not as grand visions, but as subtle shifts. His body, once heavy with cold, began to feel light, as if the mountain itself were lifting him. His breath grew warm, a furnace kindled by his practice. This was Tummo, the inner fire, a secret of the yogis that Milarepa had unlocked through sheer persistence. The cave, once a prison of stone, became a crucible. He no longer shivered. The cold bowed to him. Can you imagine the thrill of that moment? The realization that the body, so frail, could become a vessel for such power. It's the kind of discovery that makes you want to lean closer, to hear what comes next. The villagers below began to notice. A shepherd, seeking a lost goat, saw a faint light emanating from the cave at night. A trader, passing through, swore he heard a hum, like a chant that wasn't quite sound. Word spread, and soon Milarepa was no longer just a man but a mystery. Yet he did not seek their awe. His practice was not for display, but for truth. The miracles, levitation, the ability to pass through stone, the warmth that defied winter, were not the goal, but the fruit of his unwavering focus. You might wonder, how does a man, eating only nettles, sitting in a frozen cave, touch something so profound? The answer lies in what he let go of, and that's where the story pulls you in deeper. Letting go was Milarepa's greatest art. He released not just food, comfort, and company, but the very idea of needing them. Each surrender was a step closer to the core of his being, where the self dissolved into something boundless. You've felt it, haven't you? That fleeting moment when you forget yourself, lost in a song, a sunset, a quiet thought. Milarepa lived there, in that space where the world and the self blur into one. His cave was not a place of lack, but of abundance, not of suffering, but of liberation. The nettles, the cold, the solitude, they were not burdens, but invitations to go deeper, to find what lies beyond the surface. And here's where the story hooks you, because it's not just about Milarepa, it's about you. What are the nettles in your life, the hardships you resent? What if they too are teachers? What if the cold you flee is the very thing that could kindle your inner fire? Milarepa's cave is not just a place in the Himalayas, it's a mirror. You're standing at its entrance now, peering into its depths. The wind howls, the stone is cold, but there's a warmth within, a light that beckons. Will you step inside? Keep following, because Milarepa's story is only beginning, and it's about to take you somewhere you never expected. The cave was not the end, but the beginning. Milarepa's practice deepened, and with it, the boundaries of what was possible began to dissolve. He sang to the mountain, his voice weaving through the stone, carrying truths that echoed beyond the peaks. His songs were not mere words, but threads of wisdom, each one pulling you closer to the heart of his discovery. You can almost hear them now, can't you? The low, resonant hum, the words that seem to vibrate in your chest. They speak of impermanence, of letting go, of finding joy in the barest of moments. Stay with this, because the next turn in Milarepa's journey will show you how the impossible becomes real, and why you'll want to keep listening until the very end. The fire within. The wind outside Milarepa's cave carried whispers of his presence, a hum that seemed to linger in the valleys below, where villagers gathered around fires, their faces alight with tales of the green-skinned yogi who defied the cold. You can almost smell the smoke of those fires, can't you? The crackle of wood, the murmur of voices weaving stories that pull you closer, urging you to listen just a little longer. Milarepa, high in his stone refuge, cared not for the rumors. His world was the cave, the nettles, the breath that wove his mind into the fabric of the mountain. But something was shifting. His practice was no longer just his own, it was becoming a beacon, and you're about to see why this matters, why you can't turn away now. The nettles were nearly gone now, their sparse leaves barely enough to sustain a body that seemed to need less and less. Milarepa's frame was skeletal, his skin a faint jade from the plant's bitter gift. Yet his eyes held a fire that could warm the coldest night. Hunger, which might break another, was to him a companion, a reminder that the body was but a fleeting guest. He chewed slowly, each bite a meditation, each pang a question. What is enough? You've felt that ache, haven't you? Not just for food, but for something deeper, meaning purpose, a sense of being whole. Milarepa's answer was not to fill the void, but to explore it. And that exploration is what keeps you here, leaning into his story. In the cave, time became fluid. Days blurred into nights, marked only by the rhythm of his breath and the slow dance of his thoughts. Meditation was no longer a task, but a state of being. A river he had learned to flow with, rather than fight. His mind, once a storm of memories and regrets, was now a clear sky, vast and open. Yet within that vastness, something new was stirring. A vision, not of gods or heavens, but of the world itself, seen anew. The cave's walls, once mere stone, seemed to pulse with life. The wind, once a torment, carried melodies only he could hear. Can you feel the pull of that moment? The thrill of seeing the ordinary transform into something sacred. It's why you're still here, why you want to know what happens next. Milarepa's practice had deepened into what the old masters called the union of emptiness and compassion. He saw the world as it was, fleeting, dreamlike, yet loved it all the more for its fragility. Each nettle, each gust of wind, each ache in his bones was a teacher, pointing to the truth that nothing lasts, yet everything is precious. This was no abstract philosophy but a living realization, one that made his songs ring with a power that could stop a traveler in their tracks. You might wonder how a man, half-starved and alone, could find such joy. The answer lies in what he saw when he closed his eyes, and it's a sight that will draw you deeper into his world. One night, as the moon hung low, casting a silver glow into the cave, Milarepa felt a shift. His body, so long a vessel of endurance, began to hum with an energy that seemed to come from the earth itself. He rose, not with effort, but as if lifted, his feet barely touching the stone. The air around him shimmered, and for a moment the cave was no longer a cave, but a vast expanse, boundless and bright. This was no miracle for show. It was the fruit of his surrender, the result of countless hours letting go of what he thought he was. You can almost see it, can't you? The faint light around him, the stillness that feels alive. It's the kind of moment that makes you hold your breath, eager for what comes next. The villagers below began to seek him out. A herder, braving the steep climb, brought a small offering of barley, hoping for a blessing. A woman, grieving a lost child, came seeking solace. Milarepa did not turn them away, but neither did he play the sage. He sang to them, songs of impermanence, of the heart's capacity to hold both sorrow and joy. His voice, rough from disuse, carried a warmth that seemed to melt the frost in their hearts. You've felt it, haven't you? That moment when a word, a song, a glance touches something deep within, making you feel seen, known. That's what Milarepa gave, and it's why his cave became a magnet, pulling people toward him, just as his story pulls you now. But Milarepa's path was not without struggle. The visions, the warmth, the levitation, these were not the goal, but signposts, and he knew the danger of clinging to them. The mind, he had learned, could make an idol of even the miraculous. So he returned to his breath, to the nettles, to the cold stone beneath him. Each temptation, to pride, to comfort, to fame, was another nettle to chew, another lesson to digest. You know that battle, don't you? The pull of distraction, the lure of easy answers. Milarepa's strength was in his refusal to settle, and that refusal is what makes his story sing, what keeps you tethered to these words. The cave was no longer just a place but a crucible for transformation. The villagers' visits grew more frequent, their offerings piling at the entrance, barley, yak butter, rough spun cloth. Milarepa accepted them sparingly, taking only what sustained his practice. He knew that true wealth was not in what he held, but in what he released. His songs began to spread, carried by travelers to distant valleys, each verse a thread weaving a tapestry of wisdom. You can hear them now, can't you? The words that speak of letting go, of finding freedom in the simplest breath. They linger like a melody you can't shake, urging you to stay, to see where this path leads. And where it led, Milarepa was deeper still. His body, once a frail thing, became a vessel for the impossible. He moved through the mountain, not as a man, but as a shadow, passing through stone as if it were air. The villagers swore they saw him sitting atop cliffs no man could climb, his form glowing against the dawn. These were not tricks, but the natural flowering of a mind unbound, a heart that had learned to love without grasping. You might feel a spark of wonder at that, a curiosity that tugs at you. What could you become if you let go, just a little? That question is the hook, the reason you're still here, eager for the next turn in the tale. The cave, the nettles, the songs, they were all part of a greater alchemy, one that turned suffering into wisdom, solitude into connection. Milarepa was no longer just a man but a mirror, reflecting the potential within each of us. You're standing closer to that mirror now, aren't you? The wind outside the cave is calling, the light within it growing brighter. Milarepa's journey is not done, and neither is yours. His story is a thread that pulls you forward, promising that the next step will reveal something even more extraordinary. Keep following, because the heart of this tale is about to unfold, and you won't want to miss it. The Song of Boundless Light. The cave, once a silent witness to Milarepa's solitude, now hummed with a life of its own, as if the stone itself had learned to sing. The villagers' footsteps echoed up the mountain, their voices a soft murmur against the wind's relentless howl. They came not just for miracles, but for something deeper, a glimpse of the fire that burned in a man who had nothing yet lacked nothing. You can feel it, can't you? That pull to know more, to understand how a life so bare could shine so brightly. Milarepa's story is no longer just his. It's a current sweeping you along, and you're too curious to step away now. Let's follow it to its heart, where the nettles, The cold and the songs weave into something eternal. Milarepa sat, his body a fragile frame draped in green-tinged skin, yet his presence filled the cave like sunlight. The nettles were gone now, reduced to dust, and hunger was no longer a foe but a teacher he had befriended. His breath, slow and steady, was a bridge between the seen and unseen, each inhale drawing in the mountain's pulse, each exhale releasing the last threads of who he thought he was. You've known moments like that, haven't you? When time slows and you feel the world breathe with you, as if you're part of something vast. That's where Milarepa lived, and it's why his story grips you, why you're still here, leaning into the next beat of his tale. The villagers brought offerings, grains, butter, a tattered shawl, but Milarepa's true sustenance was the clarity he had forged. His songs, once soft murmurs, now rang with a power that seemed to ripple through the air, reaching beyond the cave to the valleys below. Each verse was a map, guiding listeners through the labyrinth of their own minds. He sang of impermanence, how all things pass like clouds across a sky. He sang of compassion, how the heart could hold the world's pain and still shine. You can almost hear it, can't you? The low, resonant hum of his voice, each word a spark that lights something within you. It's the kind of sound that makes you pause, that keeps you rooted to this story. One dawn, as the first light crept into the cave, Milarepa felt a shift deeper than any before. His body, so long a vessel of endurance, dissolved into light. Not a metaphor, but a sensation, as if he were no longer bound by flesh or stone. He rose, weightless, and stepped outside, the mountain no longer a barrier, but a partner in his dance. The villagers below, stirring from sleep, saw a figure on the peak, glowing against the sky. Some swore he walked through the air, others that he sang with a voice that carried across the valleys without fading. These were not miracles for pride, but signs of a truth he had touched. The self is a dream, and beyond it lies a freedom that knows no bounds. Can you feel the thrill of that? The wonder of a man becoming more than a man, yet still so human. The stories of Milarepa spread like wildfire, carried by traders and pilgrims to distant lands. They spoke of a yogi who needed no food, no warmth, yet thrived in the harshest of places. They spoke of songs that could heal a broken heart, of a presence that made the world feel less heavy. Yet Milarepa did not bask in their awe. He returned to his cave, to his breath, to the simplicity that had carried him this far. Fame, like hunger, was another nettle to chew, another lesson to digest. You know that struggle, don't you? The tug of praise, the temptation to be more than you are. Milarepa's strength was in his return to the bare moment, and that's what makes his story sing. What keeps you tethered to these words? His practice was now a river, flowing without effort. The cold no longer touched him. His inner fire, the tummo, burned steady and warm. The cave was no longer a refuge, but a mirror, reflecting the boundless nature of his mind. He saw the world as it was, a play of light and shadow, each moment perfect in its fleetingness. His songs grew simpler, yet more profound, each word a pebble dropped into the still pool of the listener's heart. You've felt it, haven't you? That moment when a truth lands so softly, it changes everything. That's what Milarepa gave to those who climbed the mountain, and it's what his story offers you now, a chance to see differently, to feel the world anew. The villagers came not just for wisdom, but for connection. A mother brought her sick child, hoping for a blessing. Milarepa touched the child's forehead, his hand warm despite the frost, and sang of letting go of fear. The child smiled, and the mother wept, not for sorrow, but for the lightness she felt. A skeptic, doubting the tales, came to challenge him but left silenced, his heart cracked open by a single verse. Milarepa did not seek their devotion. He offered them a mirror, showing them their own capacity for freedom. You can see it, can't you? The way his presence turned strangers into seekers, the way his songs made the ordinary sacred. It's why you're still here, why you can't look away. And yet, Milarepa's journey was not without its shadows. The deeper he went, the more he saw the fragility of his own mind. Old memories surfaced, grief, guilt, the weight of his past. He did not fight them but welcomed them, letting each thought pass like a guest through his cave. This was his final lesson. Even the enlightened are human, and the path is never done. You've known those moments, haven't you? When the past rises unbidden, and you must choose to cling or release. Milarepa chose release, and in doing so, he became a light not just for himself, but for all who heard his name. That choice is the thread that pulls you through this story, the reason you're still listening. The cave, the nettles, the songs, they were all part of a greater tapestry, one that wove Milarepa's life into the lives of countless others. His legacy was not in miracles, but in the truth he embodied. That freedom lies not in escaping the world, but in embracing it fully, without grasping. His songs carried this truth across mountains and centuries, each verse a call to wake up, to see the world as it is. You can feel it now, can't you? The quiet hum of his wisdom, the warmth of his compassion, the promise that you too can find light in the darkest of caves. This is not the end of Milarepa's story, but its heart, and it beats for you. As the sun rose over the Himalayas, Milarepa sat, his breath a soft prayer, his eyes resting on the horizon. The villagers below would continue to come, their offerings piling at the cave's mouth, their hearts opened by his songs. But Milarepa was already elsewhere, his mind a vast sky where no boundary held. His story is a mirror, reflecting your own potential, your own nettles, your own cave. You've followed him this far, felt the pull of his journey. Now, the question lingers. What will you do with this light? The answer is yours to find, but Milarepa's songs will linger, urging you to take one more step to see what lies beyond the stone.